Hello, and welcome back to this channel where every month we just get to fill holes on a Canva template. This is, as you can see, the April update for the Reader's Gauntlet, which is a challenge created by Base Reads here on YouTube that gives you different prompts to read from. And I think it's really fun, especially because I am a completionist, so I like challenges. And of course, I'm not gonna explain every challenge one by one that is included in this project, but I will try to do my best at explaining them one by one when we encounter them. I was kind of bad last month. I failed to mention two books that were like two things that I completed in the month of March, and I personally think that it's a sign that I didn't read as much in April, so that I could have time to talk about the previous month as well. Does that make sense? So let's begin, right? Okay, I'll just move. Right, so The Vegetarian by Kuang. As it turns out, I have no videos or vlogs about my reading experience for The Vegetarian by Han Huang. I think I filmed them and then just randomly deleted them. I think I gave The Vegetarian 4.25 stars. I don't know how fresh I can be with my review because it has been quite a while since I finished it. This was my second Han Huang, but it was my first full novel. And I thought it was incredibly weird, but at the same time, like, incredible. And so, if you don't know, The Vegetarian is about this woman who, after having a dream, decides to stop eating animal products. Which, by the way, that's kind of like a bad translation, honestly, because she's fully acting like a vegan, but she's calling herself a vegetarian, or like people are referring to her as a vegetarian, and the book is called The Vegetarian. So I was a little bit confused by that. And so we kind of follow three point of views, but never the one of the protagonist, which is like super, I felt like it was super strange in a good way, because in the first part we follow her husband's point of view, which is honestly enraging. We can see kind of how, first of all, the woman is seen in the marriage and in life, and you know that there is a lot happening, and it's not always pleasant. It's never pleasant, actually. And you know, me being a vegetarian myself, I did kind of get a little triggered by the way people reacted and the way people judged. Of course, it hasn't happened to me what has happened to her, fortunately. The reactions were not as violent and as strong, but it's I feel like it does really portray the stigma and the judgment that people just give gratuitously. And then on the second part, we follow the sister's husband's point of view, which is super weird. And then in the last bit, we follow her sister's point of view. So never do we get to see her point of view, and we almost all of the time follow a man's perspective, a man's point of view. And I feel like everything starts to change when we get to the sister's side, because I feel like the sister is the only one who tries to understand and who tries to be compassionate in a way. This is, I think it is the definition of as a psychological horror or thriller, because it does deal with mental illness, but you never know how. It's very, very hard to describe this book, and I went back just now to check on what I said on my Goodreads review, because I always, you know, like, pour my heart out there, but I haven't really said much except that I felt really moved by it, and I felt really shocked by it, but without a clear reason in my mind, because it was just such a complex novel. And that's why like my mind is still trying to wrap itself around it, because it's just very difficult to process. And I think it does need a reread, or like, because I've watched a few video essays on this book, and it's just like a lot of people have different takes on it, and I don't know if one of them feels more right or like more true to me than the others, but it's definitely a book worth picking up. And Han Huang, I think, is just a great talent. Her prose was insane, and I mean very reminiscent of Korean literature, I think. So yeah, so let's see what I decided to use this for. I will be very clear, this video is gonna be probably titled something around the alphabet challenge, because I think almost every book on here was used for that. So let's start with it. The alphabet challenge, of course, gives you all of the letters from the English alphabet, which are 26, and you're supposed to read one book for each and every one of them. Now, you have very much the freedom to choose if you want to use the first letter of the author's name, the first letter of the author's surname, or the book title. And so I think that it was way more fun to use it for author surnames, and so you can imagine which one I use this for. So the first one you complete is the K for Huang. This brings us to 7 out of 26 on the count. I am trying to fill this challenge as soon as possible, because they are 26 different books. So you will see me abusing, at least for this video, abusing this challenge poorly. Amazing. The second prompt I used this for was the subgenres challenge. For the subgenres challenge, as you might guess, you have given a few subgenres. I think the original was made for fantasy, but you can adapt it to whichever genre you read most, or you want to read most during this year. So I chose horror because it is quite literally my favorite genre, and this is very much that. This book is very much that. So I think I'm gonna switch up the subgenres, because there's a lot, and in case I need it, I think I will switch subgenres to make them fit more. And so I added the psychological horror subgenre, and I think the vegetarian fits very well on that, so we will add that on the board, and that will bring us to 2 out of 6 on this board. I also finished a graphic novel thanks to NetGalley, and that was Omori by Nui Konoito. I have played the game, and I did not enjoy this as much. I thought it was very confusing, but graphically very beautiful. I was thinking of not using graphic novels for this, and I might switch it later on, but at the same time I am spending my time on them, so why not, right? And I'm also using another one that I was sure I was gonna use, so might as well just throw in this one as well. So for Omori Volume 1, I first of all decided to use it for the binge read challenge, because as a graphic novel it took me I think an hour to read, and it was all in one sitting, so I think that's the definition of binge reading, and that brings us to 2 out of 3 on board. And for the second prompt, I have used it for the subgenres again, because this was very much a horror, and I think what fits it the best is the paranormal horror, so I will add that on the board, bringing us to 3 out of 6. We're halfway done. Hello. I started reading Crying in H-Mart by Zauner. This is a nonfiction, and I'm loving the fact that I'm reading basically a nonfiction a month. Discounts for for March. It is my March book club pick, and so I'm gonna count it towards that. And I mean, it's 3 in 3 months. Come on, we can count it. So this is a nonfiction about the loss of the author's mom, and also kind of coming to terms with her own ethnicity. She is half Korean, half American, and so she's always been in this kind of limbo, in which, you know, she was not either American enough or Korean enough, and so it is kind of reflecting that as well. And so far, it's devastating. I have to take breaks for how sad this is. It's really, really sad. There's a lot of cancer talk that, of course, is not easy for everybody, and I should advise you to avoid this in case that triggers you somehow. But other than that, I will update you when I'm done. I can't even describe how I feel right now. I finished crying in H Mart, and I was also crying in my house though. So I didn't give this a rating, and I'm not going to, because it is a memoir and it feels disrespectful. The only thing that I didn't like about this was the writing style. Writing is not the main career path that the author chose. She is a singer, she is a musician. That's all that matters. I'm not gonna criticize her writing or like the way the narration worked, because that's not the point really with this. I was either feeling sad or hungry throughout the whole reading of this book. Because first of all, cancer is just like so hard to read about. It's so hard because even if you have never been affected by it, oh god, it's unrealistic to not have ever thought about it, to not have ever thought about like it affecting you personally, whether it is like you directly or somebody close to you. And it's so hard not to imagine yourself in that situation, and that's what was just so horrible, to have like the perspective of somebody who's living with that, with cancer affecting their moms, like the most important person in their life. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it. And then there was also this part of the author not feeling Korean enough, or like never being Korean enough, never feeling enough. And it really showed. There was a lot of recipes, and there was a lot of just like food talk, which again made me hungry, but at the same time, it just shows how important for Michelle Zauner is to connect with her heritage, but most importantly with her mom, because like that's kind of how she showed her love to her, like through food. And that was also really hard to read about because you can see there's a lot of effort towards that. I'm kind of a little disappointed that there's no effort in learning the language. Like there's no effort being shown in the book of her learning more Korean to communicate better with her mom's family. But of course, not everything has been written in the book, nor do I know her personally and can judge this decision. That's kind of the only thoughts that I have on this book. As for the actual books that I read in April, which were only 4, so this is not going to be a long video, hopefully, I have finished Crying in H Mart. Crying in H Mart was chosen with my book club, and therefore, as I previously mentioned, I think I'm going to use my book club picks for the poll pick challenge, because we pick the genres and then the book through a poll on a WhatsApp group. This is our second pick since I started the challenge, so I'm very, very glad to fill that hole, bringing us to 2 out of 3. We're almost done here too. As for the second prompt, you will never guess what I use this for. the alphabet challenge. Okay, to be fair, this is probably the only time I'm gonna read a book by an author whose surname starts with Z. So I will add that Z in, bringing us to the final count of 8 out of 26. I just realized that I don't look good, but I have picked out my next read and I did start it. I chose. This is a collection of stories set in the Arc of Scythe universe. It is a series, I think it's like dystopian slash fantasy, that I read a couple of years ago and I loved it. And if you haven't read it, please give it a chance. It is this dystopian slash utopian world in which basically humanity has defeated hunger, war, crime, and all of that. Keep the amount of population reasonable. There is a certain group of people called the Scythes who are responsible to keep the number down, to keep the number low, based on whichever criteria they decide on an amount of people per year to glean, which is basically like a kill. Because in the normal world, if you actually like get in a car accident or like if you get killed by somebody, you can get revived. So basically, people are immortal unless they are gleaned by Scythes. And it is very, very interesting. This is, again, a collection of short stories. And so far, I've read like 3 of them. I'm almost at the end of the 3rd. And for the first story, we encountered like the beginning of the Scythedom from Scythe Marie Curie. They all get names based on like important historical figures, which is so cool to me. But Marie Curie, we have met her in the original trilogy, and so we kind of see how she kind of like introduced herself into the Scythedom, which was really, really awesome. And now we're reading about more people, which I don't really remember if we've met before, because again, I've read it a long time ago. But I am enjoying it. I'm really, really enjoying it, and I'm gonna go on to a reading sprint with my cousin in a bit, so that's why I thought of updating you. So yeah. Yesterday night, I finished, and I'm so happy and satisfied with it. I did not expect to love this as much as I did. First of all, because I'm not a fan of collections of stories. I didn't have the best time with them in the past, but this was like everything I could ask for. It was such a thrill to go back into this world, and I was so excited to. I was never bored, and I was content with every single story because they felt auto-conclusive and they felt whole, you know, which is something that I struggled with in the past with other collections of stories in which I wanted more. I didn't feel like that was like a conclusion to the story that was given to us. But this was like, this has restored my hope into collections of stories, actually. I also loved that we got to see cultural differences, we got to see different traditions, we got to see the moon, and it's like so many things that were not included in the America only trilogy. You know, like, because the first trilogy, I think it was based only in America, which is like the continent of the nowadays America, but this was a pleasant surprise. So I think I gave it a 4.75 stars because what I didn't like about it was, I mean, just 2 stories out of the 13 were not, like, did not make me giddy and excited. It's not that I didn't like them, I was just not as excited as I was for the other ones. I also really loved the audiobook because sometimes I was like immersive reading with both of them at the same time, like my Kobo and the audiobook, and it was so surprising to have a full diverse cast that made the experience so much more amazing. I really love that. Then I read a book that I don't know how I'm gonna edit this, but I think I will try to edit out or censor as much as I can about this book, because I later found out that this author is a Zayo. So I do not want to give them the credit that I was trying to give, because I really enjoyed the book, unfortunately. You know, we have sailed the seas with it. So with this book, I have used this for the By the Hundreds challenge, which prompts you to read one book for every 100 pages. So one book containing 100 pages, one book contained by 200, and then 300, and so on. This book had a little over 400 pages, so I'm gonna use that to fill that particular hole. That brings us to 5 out of 7. Again, almost done with it. The second one, even though I'm trying to give as little away, even though I think I gave a little bit of the plot on the reading vlog, so I don't know again how much I'm gonna cut out, but I think it's pretty obvious for those who know the world and who know this particular author, but their surname starts with an S, so I'm gonna use it for the alphabet challenge, bringing us to 9 out of 26. I am so sorry for the terrible lighting and the terrible camera angle, but I am reading The Martian by Andy Weir. This was on my 26 for 2026 list, and so I'm really excited to be reading this. I'm also buddy reading it with a friend, which is really exciting. I don't do that often, but I really like it. And so if you don't know what this book is about, it is about Mark, who is the botanist of an astronaut crew who has been sent by NASA to a mission on Mars. We're kind of reading his diary entries, which does make it a little redundant for now, but I don't blame the author, because if you choose to write through diary entries, of course it is going to be like, oh, this happened, and then this problem occurred, and then I found this solution. So like, he's telling this from like after it happened, of course, so everything is already laid out. Again, it does feel a little redundant, a little repetitive. I found something funny. I did mention this to my friend, like the redundancy factor that I was struggling with, and then right away something else happened which did change things a little bit. So that was funny, but again, I'm liking this so far. I'm not thrilled to go back. I'm not dying to go back reading this, which is good, because I do need to slow down, since my friend is I'm a faster reader than my friend. So I do need to take it a little easier. He's also full on exams and I'm not. So yeah, I think I'm gonna tandem read this with a nonfiction that I've been reading for months. So far this is the update. I am liking this. Only 25% in though, so I will update you when I'm done with it. Even though I'm wearing the same shirt, this is not the same day. It's been 2 months since the last clip that you saw. But I thought I gave an update, even though I didn't read much further than the clip. But it's been a long time, and my mindset changed and my feelings changed, and so I'm around 46% of this book, and what the fuck are we even talking about? Like, I have personal beef with Andy Weir because of his stance on AI, which, anyways, but so maybe that's kind of like conditioning my feelings towards this read, but this is the most manly book I've ever read. It's not a good thing, and I am at a point in the book in which we're getting so many perspectives that I'm like, what are we even saying? What are we talking about? Where are we going? This is just so confusing. It is so confusing, but we will power through it. Hello. So it has been a few days since I finished The Martian by Andy Weir, and this is funny because I started this 2 months ago, So this was a buddy read with a friend of mine who still has not finished the book and told me that he was not going to. So I just took it upon myself to finish it for both of us. As you might have guessed, I am not the biggest fan of it. In the end, I decided to give this book 3 stars, which feels very generous, but also right, because I don't feel like giving it any less than that, but at the same time, it does not, in my opinion, deserve more. So it's kind of an in-between, not entirely sure of what I think about this rating. So the thing with The Martian is the concept is really intriguing, and I think rather than intriguing, it is scary. And I come from a place of love for Andy Weir's writing, because I have read Project Hail Mary in July. I have a reading vlog on that, and I have loved it. I think it was one of the best books that I read last year. I gave it like 6 stars, figuratively. And so I was really excited for this. I have not watched the movie with Matt Damon, so I went completely blind into it. And I didn't love it. I think that the story felt a bit meh. Again, it was really intriguing at the beginning, felt kind of flat because we were only getting his point of view, and the story was basically, oh, there is this problem, but hey, I fixed it. And basically that. We started getting a little bit more of another POV later on, which felt really good, and like I felt that the story was beginning to look a bit more dynamic and more I think easier to follow. But then we started getting more POVs, and I started just going crazy because I was already having a lot of trouble keeping up with the numbers and the equations and all of the Andy Weir stuff that he puts, which great that you have so much knowledge on this and that you put in so much research on this book. I really can appreciate that, and I did in Project Hail Mary, but I don't know, this felt a little different. I felt like I was too stupid to understand and was not helped to understand in any way by the author. I felt kind of like I didn't want to know because it was just so much. And maybe it's me having a problem with space books, because actually no, that's not true. I am not the biggest fan of space stories. I am not. But the few stories that I've read, Project Hail Mary, and I think The Darkness Outside of Us, something like that, another book that I read for a video, I really enjoyed those. So I think the problem was this book for me, because it did not click. I did not care enough to follow up on the numbers and the science and all of that. I didn't care enough, and I think that was also not helped, kind of like the opposite, by having a main character that I could not stand. Mark Watney, if you can hear this, I despised you. He was insufferable to read about or to read from, like his point of view. He was stubborn and had this really forced, in my opinion, forced quirkiness and humor that did not work for me. Again, worked for Project Hail Mary. I think this was way different, not the same at all. And so yeah, the things kind of summed up at a certain point in the book where we were getting like more POVs and more names to remember, or like, what is this person doing? What is their role? I couldn't care less at a point. Just like, I wanted to finish this as fast as possible because I could not stand another page of it. So yeah, I also kind of did listen to a bit of the audiobook, and this did not help with the experience at all, because the narrator for this book felt kind of those TikTok AI generated voiceovers that just narrates the clip as it's happening. It felt like that, except when he was speaking from the point of view, speaking when he was interpreting the Indian character and the Russian character, or like German character, I think it was, not Russian. I think it was, yeah, I think both. But that felt a little weird. Like, why are you so static in English and then you just like do a whole bunch of things for an accent that is not yours? I don't know. It just felt weird. Anyways, that's my review on it. After finishing The Martian by weIr, I knew what I was gonna use this for, because the cover is just, first of all, so pretty, and second of all, so orange. There is a challenge on here that is pretty much just the rainbow challenge. You are prompted to read one book for every color of the rainbow, and again, I will use this for the color orange, and that brings us to 3 out of 7. And again, very, very little chances that I'm gonna read, even though I think W is a pretty common. Anyways, very little chances that I'm gonna read another book by an author whose surname starts with a W, and so I decided to use weIr for that one specifically, and that marks 10 out of 26. I think we're getting somewhere.
Hair is a little messy, but I did sneak in one last good read in this month, because my current read is taking a lot of time for all the right reasons, and you're gonna see it next month because I'm almost done with it. But I needed something light and easy to kind of read, but not read what I'm actually reading, because that takes a lot of effort. So I just wanted something easy. I thought that the best option would actually be to continue the Heartstopper comics, because that's easy, I know the story, and I don't know, it's just cute overall. So I did start and finish Heartstopper Volume 4. I read Volume 3 last month, I want to say, not last month, maybe 2 months ago, and didn't love it, because I thought it was too cheesy and maybe not really for me, as of like, I'm not a teenager anymore, and that kind of relationship, like cheesy, corny relationships, is not for me anymore. But this one was truly a highlight. It changed my mind on this series of books. It was touching, it felt personal. Ended up giving this 4 stars. I really, really loved the way that certain themes are being discussed, especially with mental health, and I was just really, really surprised. And I am really happy that I managed to sneak it in. As for the last book, Heartstopper Volume 4, I am so sorry, but the alphabet challenge, letter O, and we're on 11 out of 26. I think this is needed, guys. I think this is needed to be like so focused during this challenge. And so I'm fine with it. And then as for the second prompt, I used Heartstopper 4, was the rainbow challenge, because this cover is very purple and I love this color very much. I also love this cover very much. So that brings us to the final count of 4 out of 7. And that concludes the video. I am very, very excited about how this challenge is going. I also want to mention that my one of the other challenges is a personal goal challenge, and my personal goal is just to read 60 books this year, and so I just want to update where I am with that. I am at around 20, I think, books read, so I think that's 1/3 of the challenge, so I'm pretty happy about that. And I think that is it for today's video. I really hope I do better in May. I think there's just too many books I want to read for my month to be not prolific at all. So I guess I will see you then, and I will try to keep my promise. So goodbye.